Hey there, this is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, and for today's episode, I wanted to talk a bit about internal family systems, or IFS for short, and how developments in this area of psychotherapy can have a profound impact on how we approach Christian formation, therapeutic models, children's development, and plenty of other different areas using this framework. Now, for those of you who've never heard of IFS, it's been developed by a man named Richard Schwartz, and it posits the existence of subpersonalities within the overarching structure of our singular personality, taking a different approach to understanding the human person rather than as a singularity, but as a multiplicity, and emphasizing the interrelationships between those parts and achieving integration through connection between the parts and each part to the self. So I understand that was a lot, especially if you've not been introduced to multiplicity in personality theory, but I can break it down further by talking about the different kinds of parts that IFS works with. So parts are typically described in terms of being protectors or exiles. And then even further, protectors are broken into two categories of firefighters and managers. Now, protectors are typically those parts of us, those sub-personalities that are out in front, helping us get things done from day to day and managing our system, especially in the case of the managers. Now, protectors that fit into the subcategory of firefighters are more reactive, helping us to manage difficult emotions so that they don't overwhelm us. So those are protectors, the two subcategories being managers and firefighters. Now, the other type of part is the exile. And as the name implies, they are the parts of us that are often pushed to the side, kept out of sight, and not given attention, often because of the difficult emotions, memories, physical sensations even, that are associated with the experiences of those exiled parts. Now, the tricky thing is that although those parts are kept out of sight and pushed to the side, they will call out for attention in many different ways, such that the effects of their negative emotions come at us sideways, right? Instead of us seeing them straight on and understanding how to integrate a difficult emotion such as shame or grief or anger into our responses, they can surprise us, overwhelm us, and be manifested in more unhealthy ways than we would often like. Now, another key part of the internal family systems model is the concept of the self. Now, the self is characterized by 8 C's. Now, those C's, just a few of them, are things like calmness, creativity, compassion, and connectedness. These positive, virtuous, desirable traits that help us integrate the various parts of our system. And when we are, so to speak, in self, we are exhibiting those characteristics and able to lead our system from that calm, creative, curious, compassionate place. And that's the goal of parts work, of working with your parts over the long term, is to experience a greater degree of integration over time so that you can benefit from having an increased perspective on the situations that you're facing that is not available to you when you are overwhelmed by the feelings of one part in particular. So, just by way of example, I, to give you some insight into my internal system, have a protector part that is a manager that functions as an internal critic in my system. Sometimes he presents himself as a system analyst, right? Taking account of how all of the other parts are behaving, how they're doing, how my tasks are being accomplished or not being accomplished. And in doing some of my own parts work, I've noticed how often this part of me, this analyst, is out in front leading my entire system, and sometimes not in the most adaptive way, although his intentions for my system are obviously good, right? He wants things to be taken care of, things to be organized, that type of thing. But the trick about a part leading instead of yourself, again, that calm, curious, compassionate, courageous element of your system not being in charge, is that parts have limited perspective. And when a part is leading rather than the self, that's what we call blending. So when you're blended with a part, you see the world in a perspective that is limited to their experience and does not often take into account the perspectives that other parts hold and the needs that they have, right? So many of us have had the experience, I know that I have, that when a manager part, like an internal critic or an analyst or something like that, is blended with you and in charge, you may be more likely to disregard other signals that you're receiving from your body, very basic things like the need to eat, the need to stay hydrated, the need to slow down and take a breath. And the thing that it might be counterintuitive is that although that manager part specializes in managing your system and getting things done, it's going to actually be less effective at its job if it's not cooperating and it being in connection with the rest of the parts. And so it actually exhibits self-defeating behavior in its attempt to help you, which is one of the motivations for being in self and letting the self coordinate the various roles of your parts and let them contribute, to your overall well-being instead of overwhelming your system with their own smaller agendas. And so internal family systems is something that I'm still learning about, have a lot to learn. I am participating in a formation program through a group called Souls and Hearts. They are a group of Catholic therapists founded by Dr. Peter Malinowski and Dr. Jerry Crete. And they have a program called the Resilient Catholics Community. And that's the avenue that I've chosen to learn more about IFS and incorporate it into my own personal plan of formation. It's something that other members of my family are looking into as well. And so I encourage you to find out more about IFS. There's a lot of videos on YouTube out there right now about it. It's very popular, and to especially check out the resources available on Souls and Hearts through Dr. Peter Malinowski. That's a great starting place, especially if you're looking for IFS resources from a Christian, particularly Catholic perspective. So there's an introduction to IFS. It's something I know that I'll be talking more about in the future. If you have an interest in IFS or have any experiences to share about it, I would enjoy hearing about it. So please let me know. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time, your attention, and God bless.